Good evening, participants. Good evening, audience. I welcome you all. I am Mr. Bhattacharya, past president of the IA Hyderabad chapter, and we have a excellent topic today for our development meeting. Uh, this is a topic which many people would believe, I believe, would be interested to know how internal audit will play a role in what kind of a role internal audit can play in audit of business strategy. And for this, today we have our speaker, Mr. Rana Bhomik, who's a chartered accountant with 20 plus years of global and local experience. Before embarking into professional practice, he worked at Deloitte, General Electric, Ford Motor Company, Cummins, BDO, and also he was the head of risk advisory services in United Arab Emirates for BDO Consulting. And also his last working assignment was at Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. In these organizations, he worked at global locations, some of which covers North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and Middle East. And he gained a proficiency in business and internal controls, that enterprise risk management, risk-based internal audits, forensics and consequence management, in preparation of standard operating procedures and manuals and their implementation, grievance redressal and whistleblower reviews, post-acquisition reviews, and capacity audits. And more so, while he was at Dr. Reddy's, it was on drug development reviews was also a part of his core activity. He's a people person who is convinced that human beings are the most critical asset for any change management. And as we know, internal audit as a function always makes a continuous change as a catalyst for change and improvement in any organization. And with that introduction, I'll request Mr. Rana to speak on the session, and I will be moderating the session wherever and at the end or in between. So over to you, Rana. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, Kalol, and a very warm welcome to all the participants, ladies and gentlemen. And sincere thanks to internal auditors, to the Institute of Internal Auditors for providing me with this platform and opportunity to discuss what I guess and I feel is a very important topic that will help us mold ourselves and keep us relevant. So as the world moves from pre-COVID to post-COVID and afterwards, the one common question that attacks all of us is, how are we going to remain relevant in these changing times? And to remain relevant in the changing times, we cannot help but look at the canvas across which businesses are operating. And that is exactly the canvas which will talk about the internal and external environment, the various components of the strategy, which talks about the product, the services, the logistics, the people, the technology, and what all. And it is in that context that our profession has to mold itself and become not only the trusted advisors, but also the capable advisors as well. So it is in that backdrop, I guess, that the importance of this session cannot be lost and cannot be underestimated. And I am more than happy to actually, get more and more insights as we get into this particular discussion. So without further ado, let me get started with this particular presentation. Just a second. Yeah. Just a minute. Yeah. So how are we shaping this particular discussion? As important as it is, we need to understand that everything has to have a plan, has to have a rollout also. So we have structured this particular presentation across critical definitions, and all of us, we need to be on the same plane as far as defining and understanding the terms are concerned. The next one would be the audit objectives, which is what actually drives the internal audit activity along the business strategy evaluation perspective. The 360-degree clarity, which must always exist 24/7. So at all levels, clarity is probably the single most striking feature that we are all looking for. The next one, sorry. Yeah, the next one is the integration and the synchronization. So clarity is critical, but it shall only contribute to a lasting impact when all the parts they sing and rhyme with each other to bring about the consistency, authenticity, and the effort. So that is also one area that we are talking about. The entire ecosystem under which it operates, the risk management, which is acting as the sieve and the conscience of the business strategy as it unfolds itself. Internal auditor, a very important part of this entire ecosystem. The performance and culture, which we will of course discuss it as we go ahead. It says that culture is strategy for breakfast. And most importantly, the case studies, which actually gives you a flavor and gives all of us a flavor that we have really been there, done it, and seen that. So coming to the critical definitions that are guiding this journey, the first important one is vision. And on the right hand side of this particular graphic, we are also walking you through an instance which will help everybody to understand how all these aspects they roll up. So the first one is vision, which actually tells us what we want to be in the future, and it is certainly a forward-looking statement. The next one is talking about the mission, which captures what would it take to make the vision come true. And it is at a very high level. Of course, as we go further down, we are going to break it down into the components. So if leading the candy business in the country was the vision, the mission would be how to make the company, let us say in this instance XYZ, as the largest seller of premium candy. So we are not talking about candy in general, but we are talking about premium candy as a business segment. The next one would be the values and culture. So this establishes, so while winning is important, but winning without any culture and value is detrimental, and it will all ensure that it comes crashing down. So one of the instances, responsible sourcing and no false assertions and inducements. So we are going to base our mission and vision on perfectly legible, acceptable standards of sourcing, and without any false assertions that this is this is a zero sugar or something like that. The next one would be the goals. And these are mainly long-term, broad and abstract, and which are less structured compared to what the objectives are. So goals and objectives go hand in hand, while the objectives generally are more specific and smart. That is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-defined. The goals are a bit abstract, but anyway, they have their own importance. So while objectives could be increasing of my brand awareness, taste and visibility, enhancing the staff expertise and improving customer services, the goals would be telling me that, well, through all these objectives, we have to achieve the biggest share of market leadership in the premium candy segment. The next one is about strategy. The strategy is basically the long-term objectives that would help convert a mission statement from a broad vision into more specific plans and projects. So here you go. Strategy is a more specific, focused, and planned activity that you would take. So convincing customers that XYZ is the best premium candy by associating high-end people and entities. So herein comes the role of endorsement through celebrities, endorsement through people who are known in the market for their integrity, and that is what is a strategy by which you would popularize this product amongst the consumer. The next important part is tactics, where it is the conceptual action for achieving a goal which is meant to gain the objective, and that is talking about specific techniques that would help us to get there, remain there, and be profitable. So if the instance would be that XYZ candy, putting it as a sample in some high-end departmental stores, or putting XYZ on the pillows of beds in high-end hotels, which would immediately put this particular candy in the category of high-end customers. So if you look at it, we are saying that making XYZ company as the largest seller of premium candy is one of the vision, and the tactics is putting it in a place where it is the well-heeled customers who come in and visit and would actually take it forward. But most importantly would be the execution. So executions are what is done to deliver or coordinate the strategy and ensure that it is actually giving us the results, which is what is important for us to make the impact. So the TV and the print ads using the wealthy celebrity endorsers could be a strategy, could be an execution as well. And this, I feel, is important to set the context and to get us rolling into what the future slides would tell us. So if you look at strategy, it is basically a path. So from an as is current state to be the aspirational state. And strategy has various options that we can pursue. It is not one single option that is available. It could be a path A, path B, or a path C. And this is exactly where internal audit comes in when it audits the business strategy. So for each of the paths that we have articulated, internal audit is going to also look at it. Of course, this is on a post determination basis, about the clarity about the purpose of the strategy. So visiting and revisiting the entity's vision and mission to get clarity about what the objective was in the first place. Allocation of resources, whether it was done in an effective way and in an efficient manner, for which we can resort to a cost benefit analysis for every material or resource that was earmarked. Whether we get into a make or buy decision or an outsourcing versus in-housing decision. Most importantly, the risk management and the mitigating controls that would be there to ensure that except for the most unforeseen circumstances like COVID, we are always prepared to address the risks that matter most to the organization. Similar to risk management, the compliance issues that must be also addressed. So compliance aspects for each strategy, they need to be identified and addressed, including assigning responsibilities for monitoring and reporting on the compliance. So there are case studies later in this particular presentation which will articulate and underline why this is as important as it is. The profitability and the performance of the business strategy that we are adopting, whether it is the competitive landscape, how are we establishing ourselves in the competitive landscape, the customer feedback which establishes the acceptability and the sustainability of the strategy, and of course the costing and the pricing considerations. Equally important is the governance part of it, the responsibility, accountability, reporting, and congruence with mission and values. So strategy documentation is a critical part of the entire process. What are the assumptions and the projections that actually underlined the adoption of a particular strategy? As you would appreciate, any product which is being rolled out or any service which is being rolled out, if it is beyond a particular timeline, it loses the punch. So therefore, the due date and the rollout dates are equally important, and equally critical is the quality. So whether it is in India, whether it is in USA, or whether it is in whichever part of the world, the Kentucky Fried Chicken or the McDonald's burger always tastes the same, and that is quality and consistency, and certainly there is a governance process around it. And finally, what are the benefits of the strategy? The assumptions and the benefits with which the organization embarked on a particular strategy, whether it was the profit, whether it was the market share, whether it was the long-term, short-term competitive ability, as well as standing out in the competition, has it been realized? Or are we putting good money after bad purposes? So these, in essence, in my limited knowledge, and I would always want to be standing corrected, these in essence are what are the audit objectives against which I, in my personal capacity, have always looked at business strategies as I have been a part of the unfolding team. Now, now we need to we talked about clarity, and so therefore it is important that as we operationalize strategy, there has to be a clarity about a strategic plan. So whether it be inputs to the planning process, wherein we are looking at the external environment, that is the economic, competition, political, legal environment, etc., or the internal environment, where it is the firms or the company's financial and human resources, the technological capabilities, etc. All of them have to be viewed together. They cannot be viewed in isolation. So today, in the midst of a skyrocketing fuel price environment, if somebody does not consider the cost of fuel consumption per kilometer traveled, I think that would be an important miss as far as the weaving the strategy fabric is concerned. So similarly, all of them, they actually double down on the mission, objectives, and the value proposition, and finally the strategy formulation. So the external environment, the internal environment, the mission, the objectives, all of them actually double down on this very critical aspect, which we are talking in the graphic on the left hand side of the screen: the mission, vision, forecast, goals, objectives, and activities. So while the green part, the green color of this triangle refers to the strategic level, the yellow part, the yellow areas refer to action, and finally the outcomes are in the light brown color, and which certainly means the KRAs, KPIs, the outcomes, the objectives, which of course at this point in time is not a part of this particular discussion, but certainly the areas which are marked in green and yellow, light yellow, certainly do form a part of this discussion. The next one is the integration and the synchronization effort. So remember, we talked about audit objectives, which refer to integration and the synchronization aspects. As much as clarity is important, that this angle is equally important to ensure that all the elements, they are rhyming together and resonating at the same time. So strategy is done at three levels, or we can say that strategy is articulated at three levels in an organization. Corporate level, which is the highest level of strategy, that talks about the senior management, including the board of directors. So I've given an example about how the senior management may take a decision that over the next 2 to 3 years we have to work on an investor relations improvement, and one of the mission is publish the audited accounts within 45 days by rolling an ERP by December of 20XX, assuming that this particular discussion took place at the headquarters somewhere in April of 20XX. The next one is level 2, which is the business unit level, and wherein if it is a business which has number of segments like foods, non-foods, etc., and where 80% of the revenue probably comes from one division, which is foods, and there are 15 plants comprising foods, people at the business unit level or at a financial controller level, they take a decision that instead of rolling out the ERP plan across the company, which might be very difficult at this point in time, it is important if we go for an 80% revenue to be streamlined as per the strategy of the senior level. So probably a Pareto analysis has been done here to arrive at a decision that it is better to go with foods division rather than with the entire 9 yards. The next one is the functional level, which is basically where the nitty-gritty of the strategy is being carried out, whether it be the marketing, the sales, the CRM operations, finance, etc. This is where the departments actually get into action. So I have just talked about a certain strategy at that departmental level, which may say that let us allocate roles within the accounts and finance department, which looks into F&A, AP, AR, GL, FA. I'm just using the acronyms. F&A means finance account, fixed assets. Finance and accounts. AP stands for accounts payable, accounts receivable, general ledger, fixed asset, provisioning, taxation, direct and indirect. And then within that level, each team leader who has been nominated, he or she reports to the controller, who then is also acting as a project champion for the ERP rollout. And every 20 days, they report to the divisional FC, financial controller, and the divisional FC finally reports to the CFO. And the responsibility of all this is with the plant financial controller. So this is, I feel, a very critical part as far as the integration and the synchronization efforts of a strategy execution is concerned. And this is certainly one area where the internal auditor has a huge role to play. So whether it is the strategic foresight or the strategic thinking or the strategic planning, you have this defined or articulated under the 3 levels of strategy formulation and execution. And as they say, that images speak 1,000 words. So here you have fantastic expression of thinking inside out, which Simon Sinek often talks about. So you have the purpose, vision, and the strategy. So one always has to understand the purpose as to why we are doing it. So if you recollect, the opening sentences in today's seminar was, why are we doing this in the first place? And that is the purpose. The vision, of course, we all have to be relevant, not only today, tomorrow, but even 5-10 years down the line. And then the strategy as to how we go about it. And reflect yourself now to the pyramid, which is there on the right-hand side, which talks about the purpose, the mission, the vision, and the goals. And it also gives you a timeline. So as it says that the purpose never changes, the mission and vision probably has a shelf life of between 5 to 20 years each. But the goals, they have a much shorter timeline of only 1 to 5 years. Sorry, not timeline, but longevity of only 1 to 5 years. And as the organization moves from the board to the middle management to the junior management, the focus shifts from ideation to crystallization to execution. And some time back, I was going through an important blog, and I just could not help but pick this up from the blogs. I'm sorry I don't have the name of the blog writer to whom I should attribute my thanks to. But it says that the easy way to remember the difference between vision and mission is to just add the words ARY. And here you have got a visionary, a person who can actually see into the future, think and crystallize the vision, and a missionary who helps to realize the vision. So if we just go up and try to see that in this broad 3 boxes, probably the board and the senior management and the middle management would constitute a visionary, and whereas the junior management comprising of the supervisors and the workforce would constitute a missionary. But again, going back to the left of the screen, we have another small triangle, and I'm sorry if I have made this slide a bit too busy, but it talks about the culture which actually surrounds the mission and the vision and of course the values. So that would be the most important takeaway that I could think of as far as this this collage of image is concerned. The next one is talking about what are the strategic components and the ecosystem. So as much as we talked about the business strategy ecosystem in the earlier slides, I just could not help but reflect on the fact that strategy is not just about the KPIs. Strategy is actually about the 3 components which talk about the strategy definition, the strategy description, and the strategy execution. And I invite your attention to the 3 boxes which are there on the right-hand side of this particular slide, wherein we have talked about the element of strategy content, which basically talks about the external opportunities and the threat, the internal strength and the weaknesses, the resources, capabilities, and the practices that we have within the organization, which would also resonate with a lot of us because we also end up doing a lot of SWOT analysis. So it also helps you to understand how the SWOT analysis actually rolls out or rolls up. Consider the strategies that are there to address the various threats and leverage the opportunities. So what are the alternatives, assumptions? A lot of brainstorming that happens here, and a lot of data also gets crunched literally. And the last one would be aligning the strategy supporting activities through consistent and positive communication, coordination, and flexibility. May I request the audience to kindly park this for a later time. Just keep this point in view, or keep in memory, and we will come back and revisit this at a later point in time. But suffice to say that these elements of strategy content had often been regarded as out of bounds for internal auditors. We always got a refrain from the management, oh my goodness me, internal auditor does not have to get into the strategy part. But I guess as part of the IA domain, we need to get, we probably need to get started as far as challenging this mindset of the management is concerned. We are not going to be intimidating them, but we are only going to be challenging them, and that is being essentially being driven through the seniority, maturity, the business acumen, and the relationships and the communication prowess that internal audit possesses as an entire community. The strategy execution, and I again go back to the extreme, to the box on the extreme right, which has always been regarded as a part of the internal audit scope. Now, have we not always looked at internal audit observations saying that what was the criteria, what was the non-compliance, what was the non-conformance? But a strategic audit could be designed to validate this further, including the calculations and the assumptions that form the basis of the strategic plan. So, Kallol, at this point in time, I would just take a 2 minutes. I'll just take 1 second of yours to find out if there are any questions so far that we have had as far as the strategy component and the ecosystem is concerned, because I feel that this is probably going to be a very critical part of the presentation.
I would like to add here that what you said about strategy and internal audit is right. However, it is very important for the internal audit to be able to get their hands on to audit the strategy process as such, because what happens is, normally, as you have shown in the earlier slide, that the people involved in the strategy making process are the top leadership, the leadership of the of any organization. So normally they would not like to be subjected to any kind of review or scrutiny. Because they are the people who are actually involved in the strategy making process. So primarily, if this business strategy audit, if it has to be a part of the audit universe, it has to happen necessarily with the blessings of the audit committee or the board, because unless this is, and one very important understanding that needs to be impressed upon this, that it is for businesses to take risks. So it's the prerogative of management to get into risky areas or certain business risks they want to take, like when they enter any new market or they launch a new product, or say for example they want to take up a new project. It's all their prerogative. It's not internal audit's domain to question that. But what really may be important to impress upon the audit committee or the board is that that we should have this strategy audit as part of the audit universe, so that internal audit can actually test whether the process of decision making and the process of strategy formulation has gone through a proper mechanism which will be robust, so that the quality of strategy making is excellent. So that should be what it is like. And if that particular objective is set, I don't think because without questioning the strategies per se, because many times it is based on the risk attitude or the risk, what I should say, of the organization, where certain businesses will like to take entry into certain areas. which indeed are risky, but internal audit cannot step into that and question that possibly that why you are getting into that area, because it is not our business to get into questioning or testing. But what we can validate there is the process that they have followed in the strategy formulation. If
Yeah.
that is the backdrop, I think we will always have the blessings of the audit committee and the board to
No,
audit us.
yeah,
Yeah, you can
Kallol,
please continue
yeah,
with
Kallol,
your.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because yes, and as I said earlier, we are only going to challenge the hypothesis. We are not going to say that whether you should continue or not. It is basically more of a risk management effort that goes in as far as the internal audit team is concerned, to try and look at the quality and the texture of strategy, rather than at the very reason as to why the strategy was taken in the first place. And that is exactly where I am inviting your attention to saying that internal audit can be a part of this fantastic process and this very important process, provided it has the kind of seniority, maturity, business acumen, relationships, and communication that are brought to bear. It is not something that can happen overnight. It would require a lot of investment in terms of time, effort, and knowledge that goes to qualify us to actually get into that particular position. And thank you, Kallul, for your inputs. So with that,
I
I
fully
move.
agree with you that it depends a lot on the maturity of the organization to be able to let internal audit even scrutinize the process or the see the quality of decision making, because the quality of strategy formulation will again depend on a host of factors. I mean, whether certain inputs, because a strategy making process, as for any process, it will have inputs, process, and outputs. So the outputs will be as good as the inputs. So if the inputs and the processes, what has been followed, if they are subjected to certain basis, so
Mhm.
that's where I feel that and if internal audit actually goes into more advance in a proactive process. I mean, whether internal audit is enabled to be a participative in that process or not, is there something that an organization culture or the risk attitude of that organization again to involve, or the confidence that they have on IA, or the maturity of the organization that they have, that they will
True.
involve IA at a particular stage. Now, if IA is in the very proactive level, I mean, in the while the formation, they can actually contribute. Internal audit, us, we can contribute at the level of the process, no decision making, the formulation process.
True.
Yes, please, Rana,
So
please go ahead.
yeah, so the next slide is talking about strategy, tactics, and educated risk taking. So strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. I'm sure that many of us would have already gone through this particular quote from Sun Tzu, which is The Art of Warfare, the one of the oldest and the most celebrated books in this particular area is concerned. As far as risk management, it is like an umbrella across the entire value and the value, mission, and the vision statement, and which would allow the business to sustain the kind of performance and profitability that it is aspiring to achieve. I could not help but reflect on the quote by Dan Moreno. It says that the will to prepare, the guts to risk, and the desire to be the best. These are the trademarks of champions. So, what essentially he means is that it is courage that would actually drive us in our quest for excellence. And I could not think of, and I could not help but think about the 5 C's, which Miss Indra Nooyi talks about, and one of the C's in that is certainly courage. Uh, if you also look at the entire ERM or the COSO framework, the strategic, the operations, and the reporting and the compliance aspect, which talks about at the very top, that is essentially the framework under which the internal audit profession is currently working and is currently being guided by, whether it is for evaluating the entity at the entity level, the division level, the business unit level, and the subsidiary level. And all of us, we know today that a lot of focus today in our internal audit plans is not only at the is not only at the entity level, but it is also getting down into the subsidiary level for reasons which are all known to us. Now, I could not also help but bring to your attention the strategy choice cascade, which talks about how the purpose, the right playing field, and the inspiration to win, and the capabilities, and what the management systems are required to your attention. I guess the importance of this particular slide basically lies in the quotes that I have mentioned below. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. Strategy is all about making choices, the trade-offs, and it's about deliberately choosing to be different. A celebrated quote from late Mr. Jack Welch: in reality, strategy is actually very straightforward. Yes, most importantly, let us not try to complicate strategy. You have to pick a general direction and implement like hell. All of us who have had experience of working with GE will certainly understand what Mr. Welch meant, implement like hell. And equally, Larry Bossidy, one of the authors of the wonderful book called Execution, and also a ex-GE alumnus, who says that execution is the ability to mesh strategy with reality, aligning people with goals, and achieving the promised results. The import of this particular statement could not be overemphasized. The need to galvanize people along the strategy of a business, the importance of having town hall meetings wherein the strategy of the business is underlined and overemphasized, is exactly what Mr. Larry Bossidy is talking about. So I guess the book Execution by Larry Bossidy and by Mr. Ramcharan would always come in handy to understand where we are getting into. Now, how does internal audit come into this particular aspect? So you see the kind of expectation that internal auditor has from the entire business fraternity, which is the business alignment, quality, risk, talent, stakeholder, whatnot. And most importantly, we are also saddled with the responsibility of having to analyze, anticipate, and act. And the value of an audit is always achieved by being innovative in what we do, showing the bigger picture, addressing the risk, adding value, and becoming collaborative. Sorry. So the 3 lines model, which has been replaced by a collaborative model, actually resonates here, saying that internal audit cannot anymore operate in isolation. It has to work along with the business, for the business, and by the business as far as objectivity, independence, and value is concerned. And let us look at this. So while in the earlier slide, if I may go back, we are at a very enviable position. Not many people in the organization have the kind of positioning that internal auditors enjoy. At the same time, it is the expectation gaps that are making this position of internal audit that much more enviable, because of a statement that Mr. Richard Chambers actually captures. It says that I dread hearing the most, where was internal audit? And therefore, all audit plans must be built on simple 3-word proposition, which says follow the risk. So in the last 10-15 years, whenever the catastrophes have happened, whether it be the Enron, the WorldCom, the 2008 depression, of course, thank God, nobody can blame auditors for COVID. The question was always, what were the auditors doing? So I guess Mr. Richard Chambers is actually addressing this particular apprehension to avoid those kind of situations, and which is why I could not help but provide this graphical representation of the audit expectation gap, which is comprising of a knowledge gap, performance gap, and the evolution gap. So these 3 kinds of gaps. So we may be lacking in knowledge, so we have to therefore up the ante. The performance gap, We have to up the ante, but it is the evolution gap where the maturity, the communication, and the business acumen has to now get in to ensure that we are in a position to really demand the place that, okay, we are in a position to look at an overall business strategy. Gilmore and Associates, a very good firm based out of Australia, talks about the assess, anticipate, and act parameters of what the internal auditor needs to do. But the Forbes 2020 poll actually says that what does the internal auditor have to do? And if you look at the last part of this table, it says pack a trio of these skills: the business understanding 52%, investigative 52%, critical thinking 52%. Is it not interesting that all these three aspects have an equal weightage of 52%, which means that we have to strike a balance between our investigative thinking, between our critical thinking, and our business understanding. And only then will the quality of internal audit and the quality of internal auditors really be something that the profession can be proud of, and all of us can be relevant even in these changing times. So the framework and the arsenal to bolster the internal audit professions and the internal audit professionals. The ERM, that is the COSO framework, which we just talked about a while earlier, which provides the legitimacy, maturity, objectivity, and purpose to the entire exercise of internal audit, so that we do not go haywire. It is very easy for internal auditors to stray, because there are so many perspectives, so many explanations, so many data that you would receive. And there are examples as we go forward which underline that many of the times we can get obfuscated, we can get confused, we can get thrown away, but then it is this framework which will always keep us in balance and in check. But most importantly, what are the arsenals that complement the internal audit during this review? So the framework is there, but we also need to demonstrate certain qualities which will keep us rooted, which will keep us grounded. The most important one of the few important ones which I thought of, and there could be many more, and the audience here is more than welcome to contribute to this, is clarity. Clarity both by what, why, and by when. So like we said, there has to be a clarity around the timelines. It cannot be a never-ending business. It cannot be a never-ending effort. The business sense, saying that what essentially makes the business tick and what are the critical parts. We cannot, we cannot mistake the wood for the trees. The approach, how should we approach the assignment and prioritization of the review steps? So as much as we are looking at a business strategy, we also have to strategize our approach. Internal audit cannot help but strategize their approach and also change it as the situation demands. The examples which we are going to talk about also demonstrate the importance of why the course correction is that much more important, but it has always to be done at a speed. It cannot be done at one's own leisure. The most important part is flexibility. So we need to be ready to be correcting the course as and when the situation demands. One of the most important problems that the internal audit and the internal auditor also faces is the lack of flexibility. So if we are flexible, there are better chances that we would win as far as the assignment objectives is concerned. Communication, key ingredient. The maturity, the tact, and the poise of communication can never be underlined as to how important it is as far as getting into this kind of audits are concerned. Reporting, brevity, please be brief. We don't have to prepare large audit reports. We don't have to prepare a thick audit report. A one-page audit report which has the right choice of words which are impactful is good enough. The objectivity, the impartiality, and the impact cannot be overemphasized. Monitoring, relevance and applicability of the suggestions, and please go that extra mile to ensure that yes, it is getting implemented. And most importantly, I could not help but talk about it over and over again, being courageous and confident. Be courageous to fail, but be confident to learn and redo well. So we are, as human beings, we are fallible, and we are more than likely to be, to be a failure. But let us not make a fool of ourselves by repeating the same failure over and over again. So be courageous to fail, be confident to learn, and redo well. The case studies that we are going to talk about shortly does not mean that we achieved success on the very first day. It was through a game of iteration, through a process of trial and error. But at the end of the day, because we always were willing to change the, because we were always willing to be flexible and ready to correct the course, probably when we ended up being successful. So that is so now we are getting into the business side of the presentation, which is basically getting into the case studies, and all the case studies are numbered, and also they will help you, and they're also titled accordingly, which will help all of us to appreciate to which aspect do they tie back. So the first one was planning a strategy and de-risking it. And this was one of the instances where internal audit was involved right at the very inception when the strategy was being ideated. So this was for for one of our regional business conferences that we attended as a special invitee, where the strategy was basically looking into how we can leverage our JV partners for better execution and efficiency, since each of these partners, they had their own pluses and minuses in the respective location or the geography in which they operated. One of the interesting ideas that got discussed in this strategy meet, and most of the markets were more than happy to welcome it as part of their business strategy, was that some of the JV partners, or one of our JV partners in one of the markets, he had a significant business interest in a publicity and advertisement company. So he came up with an idea that why not we do a barter agreement. At that point in time, we all thought that maybe barter was something that we did not discuss, in this 21st century. We probably dealt with currencies all the way, but then this was one example where we had a barter agreement which was being spoken about. But as interesting as it may suggest, but the internal audit team pushed back and said, okay, we are fine with that, so long as there is a right to audit clause and a reconciliation aspect in the JV agreement. May I say that none of the parties were very happy about it. The JV partner was certainly less happier, but the business team, that is the marketing team of the business, they were less happy because it actually led to a 4 to 5 days delay. But then we persisted. We said, no, it has to happen. It has to happen. So something like that dialogue in, that dialogue in Godfather, wherein he says, if you have to go, you have to go. So we said, if you have to bring this into your strategy, please ensure that these two things are a part of your business agreement, of your JV agreement. And almost immediately, we saw that once it was operationalized, the misunderstandings cropped up, and the strategy was getting into a stalemate with multiple inconsistencies in data, versions, perspectives, and correspondence. You had the entire litany of what could go wrong happening as far as this particular understanding was concerned. We were asked to come in, and we found out that these two clauses of audit and reconciliation actually helped us to chronicle, report, and capture the teething issues, which were finally evened out, and the matters were resolved in 30 days. So in 30 days time, after this strategy was rolled out, everything was quiet on the Western Front, and business resumed as usual. So the lessons that we learned through, and one of the most important things, if I may underline, is that in all these examples that we have mentioned, we had always drawn a lesson from it, and we had always kept it as part of our repository. So professional skepticism plays, and curiosity never fails if it is with the right intentions, the character, and the communication. The strategy is right. The strategy was right. The strategy of actually getting into the barter agreement with our JV partner was the right move, and it made a lot of sense because that time the cash flows were really hard to go by, but it was the execution which mattered. And these two clauses certainly helped us to ensure that the execution starts at the right place. And the business head for Europe and Africa was thankful that we intervened at the right place. And needless to say that whenever such strategy meetings happened, internal audit always got its right place. So that is what I mean to say, that your clarity, communication, and your business acumen and maturity always helps you to get that coveted seat.
Rana,
The next, yes, please.
Yes, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that there are nearly around 12 to 14 such case studies, and in the interest of all the audience, they would love to listen to, and with the limited time that we have, you might have to you have approximately around 20 minutes more, by which time you will have to stop by around 6:15 or 6:20, and let us quick summary with followed by a Q&A for the people, where some Q&As can be taken even by email, but you might have to prioritize your case studies, which you think most relevant, you might like to discuss.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Carry on.
So the next example is about a fantastic assignment that we did in the Middle East, which was about an airport departure fee, where we saw that the business had all the strategy in place, but what was amiss was the plans to execute. So therefore, if execution is a problem, strategy does not make much of a sense, and that is exactly what happened here, where once we laid out the entire map, the entire topography, we also realized that the business also shaped itself, calibrated itself, and helped us to execute this assignment. So clarity about the need, how, why, what, when helped us to win the war. We actually explained this time and time again to our business partner, and they really understood that what was the ramification. So internal audit also is charged with the responsibility of educating the business as to why they are saying what they are saying. So we cannot afford to say a no, but we have to be very clear as to why we are saying no. The next one is following the risk and managing the risks for a win. So this was for a Middle East company which was based into factoring, both the reverse factoring as well as the normal factoring. But when we started with the ideation part, and here again internal audit was at the very ideation process itself, we certainly found that there was a deficit as far as the underwriting of the risk was concerned. And that was when a credible agency like Euler Hermes, you can always do a Google and find out who is Euler Hermes. We immediately got into a contract with Euler Hermes to do the underwriting for all our commercial contracts. And since this was a unit which was based out of DIFC, the regulators, that is DFSA, Dubai Financial Services Authority, immediately approved this particular plan the moment we gave them the written agreement with Euler Hermes, and we were able to launch the products. And please remember that this was launched within 15 days after all the approvals were concerned. I have given this as an example of a report which was submitted. So we will have to go to right up to the end to appreciate how the timelines were actually being regarded in this particular aspect. We were not overawed by the fantastic returns that they were showing. We said that no, first of all, you need to have the insurance, and only after that you should be allowed to go ahead with your plans. But we had impressive returns. We had clocked impressive returns because we were first of the block, and we actually received 6 new assignments subsequent to this particular assignment. So success was also there. A well-crafted execution brought us good dividends. And what were the lessons learned? At the board meeting, we were ready to be foolish. We were ready to learn. We were ready to understand the dependencies and the technology, the 360-degree view. But at the same time, we explained very clearly and respectfully, this is important, respectfully, why we believed what we believed, and we were open to corrections. The board also understood and also appreciated that, yes, there was a lot of value that we added, and it was a collaborative strategy that we adopted, as we would see in the report that we submitted, that actually helped us to see through this particular problem. The next one was planning a strategy to compete. This was for one of the pharmaceutical company which was into formulations and which was in what is called as a tender market, wherein you have to place your, you have to bid against a tender, and only based upon the least price you get awarded the contract. But when we saw the entire performance of that particular market, we found that it was not going anywhere. In fact, we were not even winning as many contracts as should have been won to justify our existence. Internal audit was brought in. This was a post-facto event. But then when we looked at the entire cause and effect, when we did the root cause analysis, we found that there was no bidding strategy. We had very little knowledge of the math about the success. There was lack or absence of alignment at a supply chain, production, treasury, quality, and legal, and that was the perfect storm. What internal audit did was that internal audit sat with the process owners, understood the process, and they brought everything together. So documentation is a very critical part of the strategy or of the business strategy audits that internal audit undertakes. And documentation must, and the importance of documentation must never be lost. If it is lost, I think that's a very sad day when internal audit has to recalibrate itself. So IA actually helped prepare the business, create a realistic and grounded strategy. Whether we win or lose, that's a different matter. But to have a plan and to have a tactics around it is so very important, as Sun Tzu rightly said in his Art of Warfare. And that is exactly what the tender policy allowed the business to do. The mission and the vision cannot exist in isolation unless they are backed by a learning spirit. Which means what? Which means all of us, we should be open. We should be open to learning, listening, understanding, and documenting. This was another case of compliance being captured as part of our plans are concerned, the strategy part. So people who are operating in the APEC region, the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, they know about something which is called as the local or the APEC content. And we pushed back at this strategy meeting saying that, look, unless you have this local content aspect addressed, it is no point of trying to of getting into the strategy wherein you are going to source products from outside of the APEC region. And immediately it was taken on board. We did the local content factor. We complied with the local content factor in quick time. And overall, because we were now in a position to buy products from outside of the APEC region, there was a 20% cost in the reduction and timeline. So therefore, the profitability as well as the ability to roll out the product in time is getting demonstrated under this particular example. And IA's intervention and conservatism to ensure that there is a prior approval. Please note, the approval has to be prior. It cannot be post facto, was highly recognized. So communicate, connect, correct, and character. These are key to navigating the challenges and to establish your value as an equal player as far as the strategy content is concerned. The next one is talking about a very, very interesting point, which says that strategy cannot operate in isolation. So here was an example where one of the signature products of the Indian entity of a global conglomerate could not get manufactured in time just because certain important components which were imported were coming into the company warehouse but were equally being stolen from the warehouse. So if it was coming today and going to be assembled tomorrow morning, by today evening itself that component would be gone. As a result of which, we were always falling behind the timelines. Our reputation was at stake, and the strategy of being a low cost supplier but a high quality supplier was getting defeated. Now, what did we do? So immediately internal audit was asked to do a physical security audit. And when we looked at all the aspects, we found everything was hunky-dory. There was hardly anything. There was hardly any questions. There was hardly any stones unturned. So what we decided is that we strategized that let us do something very different. And what was that different item? Point number 3, which was a new approach to do a surprise night review audit. Again, I repeat, the new approach or the strategy was, let us undertake a surprise night review audit. And this was an eureka moment for us. It actually threw the entire vulnerability open for all of us to see. That's why I said that the night review was an eye opener, and it was even brighter than a sunny day. One of our Hyderabad BOG members was actually a part of the audit team along with me, and I cannot thank him enough for having accepted that particular challenge. And as a result of which, the agreement with the security agencies was modified, and we now had an integrated security policy rolled out. The import of the word integrated security policy is, if the insurance company is not satisfied that you have covered all the areas as far as the security vulnerability is concerned, there is a slim chance that your demand or your claim would be addressed. So that was the importance of the integrated security policy. And as Michael Porter puts it, that strategy is a matter of choice. And here the choice of doing the night audit was, we believe, was the right thing to do. The business respected our decision and the prowess to pull it off. Night audits are not easy to do, and especially when it is a surprise and nobody knows why the hell you are there for. Everybody was looking at us with, who the hell are we? But then our poker face, a plain face, helped us to ensure that we do not get dragged into any unnecessary communication. So internal auditors, when we are armed with the right kind of ammunition, we are highly impactful. We are highly impactful when we are armed with the right kind of ammunition, provided we are also willing to bite the bullet. And our commitment to confidentiality was highly appreciated. Till today, neither me nor the other gentleman that I was referring to have ever discussed this in public, that what was the modus operandi. Not only might it actually encourage people to follow it, but confidentiality and reputation of each of us was at stake. So the next slide talks about tracking the performance of strategy. So everything in the world has to be tracked for performance, whether it be the way our children perform at school, or whether it be the way our respective spouses prepare tea and coffee and lunch and dinner. Everything is being tracked, and all the time, whether it be along the parameters of finance, customer satisfaction, process, as well as people and knowledge to support it. So many of the times we don't understand the importance, or we do not appreciate the importance of people and knowledge. But let me mention here that knowledge management is critical for further strategies to succeed, because every strategy has some foothold in the past. It cannot be ignored. So unless we have a knowledge to leverage now, it would be very difficult for us to get into success. So that's why the importance of the word lesson learned. And here you have a word cloud, which talks about the metrics, the statistics, cost, performance, etc., criteria, scope, I guess, which is more than self-explanatory. But this is a killer slide, if I may use the word, wherein C, it is the big brother of strategy and impact. And what is C? C here stands for culture. So people who are loyal, people are essentially loyal to the culture, and they are not so loyal to strategy. Just as the words of Peter Drucker resonates, that culture is strategy for breakfast. So as much as it is the strategy which is being brought out, after all, it is people who would be implementing the strategy. It would be it would be the brains within the people that would actually dictate how a strategy unfolds. And if that brain is not being guided by the correct values, by the correct culture, by the correct guardrails, chances are that it will derail. So therefore, I could not stress upon the importance of the word culture here. And there are case laws to substantiate it. For example, this was the turnkey division of a major global conglomerate, wherein we were winning projects in India, Mauritius, and Maldives. The order book was full, so therefore there was nothing to complain. And the team had also been winning accolades for the top performer awards. But however, there was a whistleblower complaint. So please try to link the two. There was a whistleblower complaint which actually made us sit up and say that there may be some malpractices, and that was when the corporate audit team was flown in to get this done. So we reviewed the strategy rollout, and the quality of implementation. So this was again a post facto event. When I say post facto, I mean after the strategy has been drawn out by the business. So we found that the overall estimation of the tenders or of the bids that we were placing before the tenders, they were not done in the right way. So many of the organizations, they have very set rules and guidelines as to how the tenders must be placed. I'm not talking about the pharmaceutical company. I'm talking about some other company here. And our only objective was, as far as the sales team was concerned, was win at all costs. Integrity, quality, transparency, and the other core values were compromised. And as a result of this, we found that nearly 90% of the projects reported a negative contribution ranging between -25 to -35%. We quizzed the senior management. Please understand, when I'm using the word quizzed, I really mean to say that we were seriously quizzing. We were not challenging. We were seriously quizzing. And you never quiz people unless you have data to support it. And we censored their apathy and we censored them for their apathy and abdication of the purpose, vision, and values of the business. So the division was just wanting the top line, and the greed to report swollen order books was overwhelming. And you can make it out because many of the people in the sales team, they were getting compensated, they were getting incentivized for the order book position. None of them, they were really looking at the profit, at the margins or the timelines or the various purposes that we had. And as a result of which, 20 people were fired, including 5 at the headquarters, which was based out of Barcelona. And the division was ultimately closed down. But fortunately for us, we did not have any FCPA violation. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act violation was never done, which means that to get these orders, we never bribed any official. So growth does not mean renunciation of values and culture, and aggression is not a license to violation. Many of us feel that, okay, to aggressive means, we should be standing up on the table and jumping and thumping our feet. The answer is absolutely no. Culture really is strategy and renders it hollow. The policies and procedures were immediately drafted and institutionalized. I think one of the aspects that Kallol was very generous while talking about me was fraud and consequence management. This is exactly an import about this. And the whistleblower, it was always recognized in private. We never went and said, okay, this was the guy who helped us to uncover this entire problem. The other thing that we came across, another situation, was where there was an element of obfuscation as strategy, and this was done by the client, and we always realized that obfuscation as a strategy always stings and sings. So it was relating to a housing association and a facility management company in the Middle East, and we realized that they were overwhelming us with the data. Many of the times this data was wrong, but finally we saw it through, and as a result of which we were able to actually have a discussion with the owner of this company. And even if it was in the Middle East, where that the rules are not always democratic as much as it is, we were able to actually give them a piece of our mind and say that, look, you did not do it in the right way. Next is a case study about culture, courage, and conviction. This was basically when we were acquiring a niche technology that resided in one of the family businesses, where we found that the technology was superb. The technology would have certainly helped us to maximize our profit and also maximize the chances of integration and coming up with a better product. But when we interacted with the business, with the business owner family and with the senior management, we realized that the culture did not mix. So we immediately went back and we alerted our headquarters that please call off this particular merger or acquisition plan that you had. And in spite of the pushback, we stood our ground and finally managed to convince the decision makers. And 6 months down the line, the owner was slapped with a legal notice from his workers and authorities for misconduct. And the whole of the senior leadership came back to internal audit and say, hey guys, you did a very good job. You really saw through. So the word of analyze, anticipate, and act is something that got demonstrated here. So culture always prevails. The aftermath vindicated our stand, and we applied the same principles to future negotiations. So 4 other negotiations also did not take off because similar inconsistencies were noted. So culture outperforms strategy every time, and culture with strategy is unbeatable. So you have a very unenviable and unbeatable mix if we are able to make strategy with a good culture. So that is exactly what the graphic on the right hand side, on the bottom right hand side of this slide shows you. The culture of transparency never failed. So this is one aspect where we had actually dealt with an emergency response business based out of India, and the defense, that is the PCDA, Public Controller of Defense Accounts, made a horrendous mistake in not crediting the tax deducted in 26 AS, and they were never wanting to correct it. They always said, no, whatever has been done, we cannot do anything about it. We ultimately succeeded after a period of 3 years for defense to admit that to their fault, and we got a refund of about 1.2 crores. You know how difficult it is to get a refund from the department, so I don't want to bore you with that further details. But what is important is that the strategy was very clear. We were clear that we will have to get the money out. It was the tactics of documentation, it was the tactics of recording each and every conversation that we had that backed the strategy to the T, and finally we actually won on that. Monitoring business strategy against the cost benefit analysis. I think we discussed about it at length when we talk about profit and performance. And here we have a case where we moved out of the comfort zone in one of the conglomerates, which was a Six Sigma proponent. But the chairman's office found that there were so many certificates which were getting awarded left, right, and center. But every year there was a broken process that was happening nevertheless. So this really threw him away. Through him saying that, I don't think this is happening in the right way. So internal audit did a quality strategy audit, and we understood that something has to be redrawn, and we actually redrew the entire way in which the green belt, brown belt certificates were being handed out. And we immediately got a lot of business, a lot of impact across 15 high impact locations. There was a lot of cost savings which were done. And of course, the timeless art of communication and connecting with the right people at the right time in the right way helped us to achieve the results. So this was again another case of back-to-back contracts that we won, and the kind of strategy that we took to actually decide that what should be outsourced and what should be done in India and what should be given to our US company, in spite of the humongous discussions that happened around explaining what FEMA, GST, and Income Tax Act is all about, which the other countries did not appreciate, helped us to get through with this particular task. And this was a strategy that was actually evolved across other parts of the businesses. And overall, the business turnover increased by 15% because of this outsourcing, and the margins rose up by 10%. This was also something which was very important. Yeah. So finally, coming towards the way that the report writing is handled, I gave you that instance of the factoring instance. This is how the entire report was structured. We first of all gave what was the scope description, that is the strategy under review. What were the parameters we reviewed? What were the corrective actions that we spoke about? what were the responsibility and the timelines. And here we were very, very articulate, saying whose responsibility started when, by when did it end, and when did the other part start. So therefore, linking all the corrective actions was very important. And risk rating, we immediately highlighted that this was a risk rating with red. Some of the board members said, okay, why not you put it into a yellow? Because this is going to happen. We said, no, it is going to be a red as it stands now. Maybe after this timeline, we will be in a position to say that, okay, we are now going to give it a green or a yellow. But right now it stands red. So conviction and communication are critical in succeeding in this strategy audits. So these are some of the important things that we have been driven by. Strategy as a living and breathing story about how the organization is going to win. That's what Mr. Jack Welch, late Jack Welch, talked about. Andrew Carey, one of the important thought leaders on this, also mentioned, and with a hint of like-mindedness, artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. Please help understand that this is a profession that is only driven by common sense, integrity, and consistency. So therefore, artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. This artificial intelligence does not mean AI and ML as we know about it. And thank you for a very patient hearing. Questions and answers. I think I have I am within time. It's about 6:19 by my watch. So I throw open to questions and answers.
I first of all thank Rana for an excellent presentation on the topic, and which is backed up by case laws, case studies of practical of his practical experiences. And what I would like to do is quickly the entire summary within 5 minutes. I would like to summarize the entire discussion and add a few points that I think would be relevant to this. So to summarize, and then if whatever time remains, we'll open it up for the Q&A. So friends, you have heard Mr. Rana Bhowmik speaking on the strategy, business strategy, or audit of business strategy, its planning. What we understood when we listened to the case studies, they were not only at the case studies touched upon not only the strategy formulation stage, but it was also certain points where strategy execution was involved. So internal audit has also played a role in monitoring the strategy execution. And in that phase, sometimes you have also changed the audit strategy, as in we have seen in slide number 6. You have changed the audit strategy, like somebody taking a night audit, a night audit approach. So there was a change in audit strategy to bring out a change in the ultimate strategy of the organization. So it is at different stages that internal audit got involved. So I would like to quickly summarize what we understood from today's presentation, that it's a vision is something which an organization wants to achieve. Mission is about how this vision is achieved. So how to achieve this vision. So, and then it comes with the support of the core values. The core values are something that is developed by an organization, which describes as to how the organization will interact with its different stakeholders, the customers, vendors, the regulators, and the wider community. So it is very important that that the business principles set the standards, and by which the strategies are set, and these commercial decisions are, the various business decisions are made. So together, what happens, the core values and the business principles actually form the character and defines the organization as to who they are. So what really, as having understood what Mr. Rana has spoken, it will be very important to find out at the beginning if there is a strategy process document to begin with. So if an organization is having a strategy process document, then that is the starting point. So if there is one, so one thing I again would like to emphasize, that unless it is a PSU or kind of organizations where they are looking for thematic or audits or scrutiny of the strategy per se, there it may be a very difficult proposition to get it as a part of the audit universe. And strategy execution is something which maybe the internal audit may be asked to look at the strategy execution part, but whereas the leadership may not like to be involved with IA, as part of strategy formation or formulation process at that stage. So it depends a lot on the maturity of the organization, how the internal audit's maturity also with respect to the organization, and how internal audit has played a role so far in the organization. A lot of factors goes into the play, and it comes into the audit universe with the blessings of the audit committee or the board. And it is upon the internal audit to impress that at the formulation process, when the strategy is being formulated, the IA will not play a role where it will challenge the risk taking. It's not IA's role to challenge the risk taking, but to see that the all the objectives are met through the strategy process. So what will be important for the internal audit at that stage to see that it is the strategy formulation process is sound, and it is actually about the quality of decision making. So in case strategy the internal audit is made a part of the strategy scrutiny process, I mean is a process review. I know in that case the internal auditors might have to try to see if a proper risk analysis has been done or not in course of the strategy formulation, or suppose whether certain the new market entries or the product entries or project taking up, whether those particular aspects have been again tested with the really risk appetite of the organization. So whether the risk thresholds have been set for those, and whether the organization has really tested if the risk thresholds are being crossed while they take those risks. So internal audits role would be not to question the strategy per se, but to see that the risk management process is plugged into the decision making or the strategy making process. So these kind of inputs are something, or even for that matter, whether proper assumptions has been plugged in, or whether how the assumptions has been tested, whether through an what if analysis has been done or not, and such things have to be tested by the internal audit. So what it would be the approach, in case of internal audit, if there is a process document, a strategy process document, it can actually start with a desktop review itself, and if I would say that if a proper desktop review is done, in fact the design of the strategy making process or the strategy formulation process itself can be tested through the desktop review. And so the design effectiveness can by itself done without actually going into any other part of it. But what then remains would be more like the operating effectiveness of the strategy process. Like if a strategy document says that you have to test all the assumptions or take market intelligence as an input before going into a strategy, whether those particular principles or the parameters have been tested or not, whether those particular considerations have been taken while making a strategy, is something what the internal audit may have to will have to test. So it is more in that case remains as an testing of the operating effectiveness of the strategy making process, then because in that case the desktop review can itself complete the design effectiveness. So what I would say that if IA is trying to do and involve itself through its maturity in the very early stages of the decision making or the strategy making process, I do think that the internal audit is actually being a part of the three-line model, where it is going to be more like a trusted advisor to the management than more than a reviewer or on a reactive who's testing the the controls and the risks after on a post facto basis, which actually would enhance the value of the audit, auditor in the eyes of the organization. With that, I think we will have some little time. We'll leave it to the question answer to the audience. If any, some 2-3 questions can be taken, and if there are further questions, you can email to Rana and to us. We'll be happy to answer that. So 1 or 2 questions we can take.
Sure. Thank you, Kallol. Please. Yeah.
Yeah, sir. So we are open for the question answer, and I'm just sharing the feedback poll to the audience and requesting them to answer the same in meanwhile.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have received a request for the case study webinar for the same internal auditor's role on a strategy. One more webinar, sir.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So very thankful, so very humbled by this particular request, and absolutely open to another session. It would be my privilege. And please do let me know if you need something else, something additional to what was already spoken about. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thanks,
I'm
sir.
sorry that I have to summarize in a very fast mode, and I had to rush through the summary. So sorry for that. But I think this is a very good proposal. I mean, we can take it. Mr. Menon is also a part of our panel. So we would like to hear from Mr. Menon on this.
Yeah, thank you, Kallol. I think this is something we can think about. We are open to that. We'll discuss and take a decision on that soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is a question. Is there any correlation between internal audit objective with strategic objectives?
Is there any correlation between
internal audit and strategic objectives?
Okay, so let me put it in my, in the way that I've understood it, and I am always subject to.
I can give him mic also if
that would be so good.
Yeah.
That would be so good. So if the person can please put forward the question, that would be so very great of him.
Sir.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving him the mic, Mr. Ali. Yeah, Mr. Ali, you can ask your question. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. You are on mute, Mr. Ali. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
So the question is basically when I'm setting up my internal audit objectives related the goals and all. So how should I take up also the company strategic plans, strategic objectives, all while doing the audit planning basically. So I'm sorry that I just put very short words because it was just ending. So while audit planning exercise, how should I correlate with the strategic plan is what I wanted to understand.
Okay. So I think one of the areas, well, Mr. Ali, first of all, thank you for asking me that question. See, one of the important things is that, as Mr. Kallol had also mentioned during his Thanksgiving note, that many of the time the business would not really want the auditors to get into that particular zone, which, for want of a better word, they consider to be their own domain. So the answer to this is that the audit, the overall business strategy, the overall business plan is not something that they would want us to get into the domain. Now, when we are planning an audit, when the audit calendar is being prepared for the year forward, for the year ahead, usually one of the inputs that is taken is what is the risk, what is the overall risk profile of the company, and what is the risk profile of the business. Now, since risk management is an important part of the way the internal auditor views the strategy of a company, both on the articulation as well as on the execution front, through risk management, we might willy-nilly be addressing the strategy of the company. For example, like if you look at the COSO framework, we have the strategy, compliance, operation, and reporting as the top of the cuboid. And then after that, on the sides, you have subsidiary. So if you want to get into that subsidiary audit, which is being done for the first time in a company, you can certainly get into the subsidiary audit. Now, whether that subsidiary was being leveraged for any, as any special purpose vehicle, and why it was being used as a special purpose vehicle, probably that is not an area that we can get into at the initial ideation stage, unless the company also wants us to be a part of the table. But if through risk management at a later point in time, and I don't think any company actually stands to say that, okay, we will not ask internal audit to get into this area. For example, subsidiary audits, a very, very crucial thing that is getting unraveled, even if you follow the PCAOB statements, then in that case, that is an area which I don't think the companies can actually stop you from doing so. But internal audit is increasingly getting into areas which are less explored. And for the time being, I would suggest that go the risk management way to understand why the business is doing what it is. And ultimately, if we are curious, inquisitive, communicative, and curious, it will play out. Does that answer your question?
Can I supplement? Can I supplement you, Rana?
Sure.
I think there was an angle to the question about the correlation between internal audit objectives vis-a-vis the strategic objectives. Certainly there is, because internal audit is part of the organization. Internal audit objectives are driven by the organizational objectives. So while you're formulating your audit plan, it certainly has to have a bearing with the organizational objective, organizational business strategy, organizational business plan. So yes, the answer is yes.
So, Mr. Ali, does that answer your question?
Yes, it very much does, and I think you also touch base on the issue of wherein the sharing of the business strategy plan and all that is practically faced by us.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Many of the times the organization would not want to share it straight away.
That's true.
Yeah. Any other questions, Chanchal?
No further questions, sir. We can close it out, and we can take offline questions also. If yeah. So yeah, one question, sir, came out. Just can we read out, sir, or can we keep the mic?
Yeah.
I'm just giving. Try to give the mic, sir. That will be the better. Mr. Vishal, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Hello.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Vishal.
sir, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen. During the presentation, there was one particular word being used which I really light that while doing these strategy audits, we should not question the strategies of the organization. We should see the process which is being followed for the implementation of the strategy. But what I feel is that being an auditor, ultimately the objective of the audit is to ensure that how the shareholders' interest is being protected. If the strategy is not falling within that line, then is it not the right of the internal auditor to comment on the strategy as well?
Okay, very good question. See, there is a term which is called as a proprietary audit, right? There is a term which is called proprietary. Yeah, there's a term called proprietary audit. We have talked about audit objective as profit and performance. We are not talking about a proprietary audit. We are not talking about a proprietary audit, saying that why did you spend what you spent. Now, for example, if you want to link it with the Tyco case of David Kozlowski, okay. Now that was an investigation. That was an investigation. That was not an audit. So, proprietary audit not being one of the areas where strategies are being questioned, where strategies are not being challenged, what would happen is that if we do not lose sight of what is the purpose, mission, vision of the organization and the culture that drives it. So for instance, one of the examples that I spoke about to amplify the importance of culture was that construction was the construction business, right? And in that particular thing, we realized that everything was going absolutely haywire because the only purpose that the business unit operated with was having a order book position which was good, not necessarily which was healthy, and not necessarily which was profitable. So any such differences or deviations will shine through once you start getting into the depths of it. But we are never, but to the best of my knowledge and whatever little experience I have had in this domain, we have never questioned we have never questioned the motives of the business as to why they have done what they have done. Ultimately, it is the data that has proved to be that has been helpful to us to determine that whether there is a need for the company to change its course or to correct its course. So if your question is that should we not question the purpose of the reason why a particular strategy was adopted, my cryptic answer would be no. But as we go further into the audit, you might have evidences which say that okay, there is a need to even challenge that particular premise. So does that answer your question?
Let me expand a couple of sentences on this. Look, internal audit's role is quite clear. Internal audit's role is a guardian as a trusted advisor. All right. Strategy formulation is the remit of the management. Okay. Now, suppose an organization decides to start a new product line. Now, internal audit cannot go and ask whether why did you start this product line and why don't you do X product? Why don't you do Y product? What we do is that we look at whether the due diligence process has been followed while deciding on this process line. I mean, our product line, has there been a consultative process? Have thought gone into it? Has a market survey been done? Has a proper business review been done? The processes which go to support the decision making, that is what internal audit should be focusing on. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Right, Mr. Bishal, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Because basically, means in gist, what I understood is that as the earlier gentleman mentioned that property audit, so basically what is the scope and objective of that audit, it will depend upon that. If it's the proprietary audit, then this thing questioning another thing will come. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I'd like to add one line that such proprietary audit, what we are talking about, this happens most in the government organizations or PSUs, where even the decisions, the correctness of the decisions are even questions, whether it was the best use of money or not, something that are questioned in those sectors. But if you understand really as normal businesses are concerned, internal audit is not supposed to go into that space. As already answered, it is supposed to see that the decision making or the strategies are taken following a right process. The process which are supposed to be followed have been followed, and how those strategy, all those processes have been considered during the decision making or the strategy formulation process or not. So outcome of the strategy,
Actually,
maybe outcome of the strategy in a future date on a hindsight might prove that it was a wrong strategy. It doesn't matter as long as the
okay.
strategy has been followed. Strategy making process has been followed to the T. So that is what something internal audit would like to see, that as already Mr. Menon and Mr. Rana already told you, that if
Mhm.
all the inputs for that goes into the decision making process or the strategy formulation process have been ensured, the outcome of the strategy outcome or strategy A or B or C doesn't matter, because if all the considerations are taken into account, irrespective of what may happen in
Mhm.
the future. So that is what I can contribute here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you have a time, I will explain you with the example, the context from where I
We
can coming from.
unless specifically given a mandate to do so, I mean, IA does not get
Yeah.
into that space of asking a question whether the strategy went right or wrong, why you have taken this strategy. That's only when you are questioning on the propriety, and that happens in public sector undertakings and government organizations.
No, so I'll
And
give an
that too,
example.
that
For
too as
example,
thematic audits, that too also comes at thematic audits. Okay,
yeah,
I hope I've answered.
yeah, you have answered it, but I will, in gist, I will give an example with where I'm coming from. I was doing an audit for one of our divisions where the product has been outsourced. With that product, we are doing inside, and then we are asked to do the audit of the process which we followed. The process was totally followed properly as per the company policies and the procedure. But while examining the policies in the processes which is followed for that outsourcing agreement, what we have noticed is that the company interest was not being protected. And there was a very word resistance from the management that where we went wrong, because we have followed all the processes. But our point is that, for example, there was a clause in the agreement that they will not compete with the company. So those vendor will not compete with the company after 2 years. Okay, then the question arises that why 2 years? How have you decided that you will not compete with the existing company with our product for 2 years? So there the company interest was not being protected. But if you see from the strategy angle, then everything looks good because they have followed all processes. The strategy was very well.
So
Bids
here
were
comes
invited.
so here comes the testing of the design. So how
Right.
effectively the design of the process has been done, the strategy formulation process, how effective is it? I mean, in making, and how are the inputs effective in making a right strategy, whether certain inputs have been missed out. So if you are making, as I told, that if there is a document to begin with, so in fact internal audit can contribute there to see that all the considerations or what are the process improvements input. So certain inputs were missing in your illustration. It seems
Yeah.
that because we don't understand in detail unless we understand in detail, but it seems that there was some input that was missed out at the decision making level at that stage. So as a result of which the strategy process missed out on certain things which should have been made a part of the consideration at the beginning.
Okay.
See, it's more
Yeah.
about the design of the controls.
Yeah.
Mr. Vishal, if I may add here, see, probably the strategy team did not have the entire set of people, necessary people. For example, the legal vetting and aspects like this, which would usually accompany the right to compete clause. If it were not legally vetted, probably that is the reason why internal audit came up with the observation that 2 years was not enough, and there was not any reason to substantiate why should it be 2 and not more than 2.
Correct.
So if you note that the example which I gave you, which was there as part of the reporting, which related to a finance company in the Middle East, we deliberately said that legal must be a part of the process. So, yeah, so therefore, I guess that was where the missing link was. But as far as the intention of the management is concerned, unless there is more than meets the eye, we cannot really say that management was at fault here. So we have to give the benefit of doubt. If there are other evidences that point to the management being at fault, then probably it would merit an investigation, right, rather than an audit per se.
Very well.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Thank you. Rightly answered. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chanchal,
I think
if
we
there
should
is
wind
no
up
other
now.
question, we'd like to close the session. If there's any other question.
Yeah, so there is no question so far, so we can close it
I
ourselves.
think we should close now.
Thank you, Rana, for a wonderful insight and with the case studies, from with the bringing in the practical aspects. And thank you, the audience, all of you who have.
Thank you,
come
Kallol. Thank you, Nanji, and everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, and also a big thanks to Mr. Rao and Mr. Chanchal and Ms. Menas. Thank you as well.
All the organizers and the president and the support like Mr. Chanchal and who have made this happen successfully. Thanks to all of them, Menas, and I don't know who all are involved. All of them, Chanchal and everybody on the support side. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, Rana.
Thank you.